Obrigado. Eu ia pedir à UNCTAD para fazer a sua intervenção, 5 minutos.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to you all. Do you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Are you
Okay.
sharing the screen?
I think I just briefly intervene. I can
Okay.
share documents if necessary, but I think for the brevity of
No problem.
the
Please
time,
go
I will
ahead
just provide.
and try to be succinct.
Yes, good morning to you all, Excellency, the Minister of Economy of Mozambique, and our resident coordinator. We are very pleased to seeing you. We were in Mozambique actually last week. We had intensive discussions with key stakeholders in the country. We presented the work that we have been doing for the last 2 years on Mozambique. We presented what we call it the National Productive Capacity Gap Assessment of Mozambique, which I will give you the flavor of it in 2 minutes. And also, we developed and discussed with Mozambican experts and policy advisors what we call it the holistic productive capacity development program, basically which addresses the gaps which we identified through data-driven and evidence-based approaches. These documents have been shared with all the stakeholders, and we discussed it. We got a lot of feedback. We will be updating them. We also requested written inputs to the document, but the holistic program, as we discussed, is going to be implemented holistically with all the agencies and ourselves, with key agencies and ourselves, for the next 10 years. Just getting into the details, we identified some key gaps, some opportunities and challenges as well. Just to briefly give you, Mozambique has performed almost well in terms of economic growth for almost the last decade, except with the exception of few difficult years, COVID years, and the years where commodity prices were going down, the years where Mozambique was impacted by either cyclone or drought. Otherwise, the economy performed better than most sub-Saharan African countries. But in the growth itself, we observed 3 major gaps. One, although the growth was positive, but it has not really impacted substantially the job creation capabilities and also the intensity to reduce poverty in the country. That is one gap we have seen. We also saw a kind of weakness in terms of key drivers of the growth. The growth itself was driven by extractive sectors and also the services sector. And the services sector, which itself is as vulnerable as the agriculture sector, could not provide a kind of dynamic and decent jobs, and it could not contribute to significant poverty reduction. The sustainability of growth, we saw also kind of volatility and vulnerability of the growth itself because of the source, the narrow source that drives the growth itself. And that requires also major policy direction, which we identified in the document is how to fix these kind of challenges and problems. In terms of the productive capacities, these are the capacities of Mozambique to provide goods and services at a kind of value-added goods and services on a sustainable basis to achieve inclusive growth, as the Minister, His Excellency, the Minister was saying, but also to achieve, more importantly, sustained growth with employment creation and also poverty reduction. Now, in terms of the gaps, Mozambique has huge potential in the natural capital, which we measured. The natural capital consisting of agricultural land, waters, and forestries, but more importantly, also livestock and fisheries as well, and other related resources, including the extractive or mineral sectors. But the challenge for Mozambique is the potential has not been effectively harnessed to address some of the gaps and the limitations which are identified in the productive capacities. Now, in terms of key drivers where we observe a huge gap for Mozambique is in the human capital, despite the fact that the enrollment ratios both at the primary and secondary school have improved, despite the fact that life expectancy has improved. But what we observed is the technical and the educational level of the labor force, the mean expected year of schooling of the labor force is one of the lowest in sub-Saharan African countries. And we provided also key directions to address those gaps. The other area which the significant gap we have seen in Mozambique is the energy or electricity access. As still Mozambique is struggling to ensure access of electricity to the population, particularly the rural areas. And this is also impacting the manufacturing and the industrial capacities, but the capacity of transforming the economy of Mozambique as we have seen it. Without addressing electricity gap, it will be difficult to catch up with industrialization process, and it will be difficult to transform the economy of Mozambique. The ICT is improving. The ICT component is improving in terms of access, but using the new technology to revolutionize the working method, adding value, altering the way we trade and the way we address some of the gaps in the financial sectors is still one of the weakest. The private sector even is much weaker and lower than sub-Saharan African average, and that requires also the policy intervention. The other area where we saw actually a decline in productive capacities, we measured productive capacity along 8 areas. I think the document will be shared. There is no point in enumerating everything. 2 major areas where we have seen Mozambique actually, the Mozambican productive capacity components are declining are in institutions and also the transport sector. And this was validated and accepted by Mozambican expertise, although we developed the indicator to measure those productive capacities along all the economies. Now, in terms of addressing, just 2 minutes, we identified only 6 broad areas for intervention. One is value addition and transforming, that's productive capacities, including agro, livestock, and the fishery sector. Mapping the export market, that's the second component, second pillar of intervention. Industrial policy revision, making industrial policy new and vibrant and addressing some of the gaps. That's the third pillar of intervention. Private sector intervention is the fourth pillar we identified. And digitalization and ICT, the fifth pillar, is strengthening institutions, the sixth pillar. So these documents are extensively written, analytical, and provide direction for the policies. And we are looking forward to finalize the document as we discussed and submit for the government for implementation as quickly as possible. Thank you very much for the time.